Well, hello, and it's another in my updates on my plant medicine journey. This is my fifth recording, the third one after the journey itself. I said I might do one just as a follow-up. I've had two integration sessions. I've summarized those in previous videos, which I'll look in below. And today I want to cover some of the kind of after effects as they've developed and the things that I'm kind of integrating now. And I'd love to go through some of the surprises and some of the perhaps, the side lines that I'm developing at the minute, because that's really what seems to have happened is I haven't actually had much effect on the anxiety. The anxiety comes and goes. It's there some days, sometimes not, depending on what's going on in my life. That had been my outward goal. Um, it's unfortunate. It hasn't really done much for that. I know it does for some people, but it has kind of propelled me into a new state of focus, I guess, which is much like when I did microdosing. I found the focus effect was really interesting. I could really see the bigger picture of things and be aware of where I needed to put my energy and maybe withdrawing from some places and moving into other arenas. You'll remember perhaps from one of the recordings I did, I think it was number two, I outlined what I was expecting and what I was looking for. And then in number three, I gave you the sort of rundown of the day. And number four was really about some of the surprising things that had happened since, including kind of getting my focus onto who am I, what am I doing, speaking up, being a leader, being somebody who cares about the world and the people in it, and trying to move humanity on. I even included a gene key reading for the one that had come up from my guide for me, and sort of how accurate that was in this arena where I'm helping to promote these ideas of everybody can transform with the right information. Okay, so where have I come to from then till now? Well, the main thing, I guess, is the impact on my business, which, up to now I've been very much focused on trauma resolution and helping people grow from emotional pain into resilience. And I had never thought really of EMDR and psychedelics in the same breath, if you like. I thought they were two separate strands. But it appears some people are considering using EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a form of a trance inducing, but in your awake state, a way to process past memories that haven't been resolved. It's a psychotropic brain state. It takes you down into usually a delta or theta, away from the normal states of beta and sometimes alpha. It's a slower brainwave state because what you're doing is you're moving your eyes from left to right. Some people do it with tapping as well. It's bilateral, so it has to alternate. And the brain is trying to interpret that information. And something about that seems to trigger the brain's ability to resolve old memories that have been stuck unprocessed in your system, usually in your emotional or limbic system. And so I had never really thought about, I had kind of guessed that EMDR was doing something similar perhaps to psychotropics, similar to plant medicine, but the person is awake, they're there, they're with you. How are these two things similar? Well, it appears it is in this altered plastic state. All right. When we say plastic, we mean that the brain can rewire in a moment, almost instantaneously, old experiences to be over. And I think what psychedelic trips do is they allow you to experience them without fear. So they take the amygdala out of action. And so you can feel the feeling and allow it to be processed, and it dissipates, it moves beyond being in the part of your brain which is an ever-present now. However, that doesn't happen for some people. And there's a new disorder. There's always new disorders popping up all the time. basically there's a list of disorders in the DSM manual, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Try saying that after a mushroom trip. Which is the kind of psychiatrist Bible. It's also the one that medical insurance uses in the US to categorize things so that it can pay out, practitioners according to whatever the person has. Okay, so there's a new one, HPPD. Get this, hallucinogen persisting perception disorder. I'd never come across that one, but it turns out I have it. Okay, so it's where things continue. You get these little hallucinations afterwards. Now, I don't know if I mentioned last time, but I was getting a few kind of flashbacky type things, not from this journey, but from a previous one that I did. Well, it wasn't a journey; it was an uncontrolled experiment. Where I was so terrified by my experience, I couldn't stop seeing it for weeks and months afterwards. And it turns out that that's now a recognized thing, and it's a type of PTSD because you've been overwhelmed neurologically by what you experienced during your trip. Now, we obviously want to minimize that as much as possible. That's why these days journeys are very controlled. The dosage is very controlled. The set and setting are very controlled. And so you're not having this out of body experience where you simply don't know who you are or what's real. But it turns out that people who are susceptible to HPPD are people who've already got trauma embedded in their system. Now, when I had my experience that was really horrible, it was because I hadn't long lost my father, probably a year or two previously. And I went into it very blindly, as you do when you're 21, 22, and you just take whatever's given to you and you think, oh, this will be fun. And the next 6 or 7 hours of absolute terror and hell ensued. In my case, it was just dope cookies. I mean, goodness, most people have a lovely time on those. I didn't. But I was dealing with death, and so the images that came to me were crosses, gravestones, coming at me through the window. I was in a room on my own, of course. What do you do with a person who's tripping badly? You put them in a room on their own in a place they don't know. No, you don't do that. All right. But that's what happened to me. I was told, you can go upstairs. There's a spare bedroom in a house I didn't know, and people randomly coming in at some points saying, "Oh, are you okay?" And no, I wasn't. None of my friends came to sit with me or ask me how I was, or much better still, sit with me while I went through that, which is what you actually need. So I was abandoned again, and I'd not long lost my dad's, which was an abandonment there. And so you can understand why I had this experience. Anyway, so it turns out that EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, is a really good, not only it's a diagnostic tool because it will tell you if you have trauma, because if you have, things start to come up, I can promise you, but it's also a way of perhaps nullifying those traumas before you go into the actual experience itself. And so it can be combined with the whole mushroom journey experience. And there are two women experimenting with that at the moment. There are two British women, Hannah Rain Smith and Jocelyn Rose, and they've written a paper and also a book, Psychedelic Assisted EMDR. I'll try and find the link and put it in the show notes below. They're talking about EMDR as a safety tool, all right? Because when you do EMDR, you always have to establish body safety first, whether through evoking a safe place or, as I do it, through grounding in the body. You must do that before you evoke painful memories for people. And then you need to ground them at the end as well, because otherwise they can end up in a state where they can't come down from the terror or anxiety of that experience. And that's not good. As you can imagine, that's very, very painful and difficult for people. So we're really they're considering using the EMDR as a co-regulatory tool to help people establish a safe connection, process anything that might still be hanging around before you go into something where you're not so in control. The one thing I've expressed time and time again is that these mushroom journeys are completely unpredictable. You simply can't know whether you're going to be shaking and crying, or like me, you're going to have a blissful experience. And really, you just need to be aware of that. But maybe by using a screening tool like EMDR beforehand, or even during, if that's possible, if you're microdosing, you might experience things without the terror or without the fear, without that pulling sensation that you're simply out of control, which is a really big dysregulator of the nervous system. So very excited by that. And I kind of feel I might be being pulled in that direction somehow at some point. That's to be discussed. Obviously, I'd need extra training. And I've often wondered, am I going to become a psychedelic assisted therapy practitioner when it becomes legal? I don't know. I don't think it's, I really feel the skills I have already merge with that. But taking people through a whole day, no, I think I might be involved in helping people deal with anything that comes up beforehand. And maybe that's going to be what I do. So very excited to explore that. And now the other thing that happened, very bizarrely, and I'm going to show this. So this book, Food of the Gods, okay, Terence McKenna, okay, just happened to be in my local thrift store, charity shop. You don't often find books like that in a secondhand store. There it was, in a very local place, really down the road from me, walkable, on the shelf. I was like, okay, that's a message. All right, that's a message. I've got to read this book. So subtitle here is A Radical History of Plants, Drugs, and Human Evolution. All right. And this is an old book. Okay. This isn't modern. For any of you who don't know, this is, 33 years ago, 1992. It's still regarded, though, as one of the classic works in for anyone thinking about going on a mushroom journey or exploring plant medicine. So I haven't started reading it yet. I haven't had time. I've been reviewing other things and also presenting for other people and doing various talks and webinars. So, but there we are. Now, I think really the focus now is kind of watch and wait, just see how this journey evokes. I know that in a month or so, I'm going to have another conversation with my guide. It's more of a professional hookup rather than anything to do with my journey. But I think that's what's coming. I think I'm going to be looking at this combination of using different tools and seeing where that takes me professionally and personally. So, folks, I would absolutely say to people, get informed before you do anything like this. Understand what you're doing. It's not left brain. It's not fixing. It's actually about exploring and being open, very right brain. And therefore it's a very, can I say female energy? I don't mean that in terms of fixed genders. I mean that sense of yin yang. It's a very open exploration of who you are in this world and what you're here to be. It's not about getting your problems and sorting them. And I think people who have the best experience are people who are aware that it's not a quick fix, and it's a process. And indeed, that's what I do for a living with other people. So it was very important for me to approach this with the right energy. So I believe I have done so. And if I do another journey, or if I explore something else, you'll be the first to know on this channel. Please, if you've enjoyed my content, please subscribe, please like. It really helps my algorithm. And take care of yourselves and, be joyful. Take care. Bye-bye.